allegiance. Please rise. We'll begin this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for remembering your masks. So I'm asking that if anyone has anything to speak, please, because we're all in masks, to speak up and enunciate. If that means speak slowly, then speak slowly. And as with anything at NERC, if you're coming to the NERC offices, depending on what the CDC in Porter County. Right now it's high. If it's high, NERC requirements are to wear a mask. Item number 2, meeting minutes of May 17th, 2020.
Move to approve. Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Public comments. Is there any public comments? Okay. Number 4, the spending plan. Has everyone got a chance to review it? We do have some funds in 2023. I know a couple of you have asked for if there were any funds. So I'll go back and look for my emails, through my emails. And I'll reach out to you. So there is funds. I don't know how much. But if you had PE or right-of-way that we were waiting for in 2020 on, because we had the extra IIJA funds, please get that into me as soon as possible. Those IIJA funds for 2022, we're allowed to use them until September 25th, I believe. So I got to get the, I know there's a couple of them that are out there. And if we need to adjust the tip, we can do that. We got to get that in. We can adjust the tip. That's not a problem. And if we need to do, if we need to adjust it, we'll adjust it. So we don't want to lose. That was $5 million that we were allowed to carry over. So I did the math last week. It'll be close, but we should be good and not losing any funds.
Do you have to have it obligated or programmed?
Program. So you have to have a PO on that. So we have to have 5.
So obligated.
Yeah, obligated. We have 5.3 million. This number right here, FY22 funds that we need to have obligated. And like I said, what I did the math and came up with 5.6. So we're okay. But that's still going to give me some heartburn. So until we get all that programmed. We do have one more letting coming up in September, so I'm hoping that'll take a big chunk out of that too. So, but if you've got something in there in the tip or PE or right away in 2022 funds, get it to me as quickly as possible. I'd much rather have it sitting on Marcy and Brianne's desk waiting for the tip action, then then waiting on your desk or my desk or something like that, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
45th Avenue, basically, it's talking about additional right-of-way funds for that. Did anything ever come of that?
we can look at that,
Okay. I'll find out what.
yeah. Any other questions on the spending plan? Okay. Number 5, woo-hoo, 2022-2026 TIP, STIP. The STIP was approved on June 17th, as I mentioned to a lot of people. And we found out on the 1st of August that our TIP was approved on April 26th. So after doing some investigating, they said, yeah, we sent this to you, and my response was, no, you didn't. Anyway, we're all good. We're operating in the 2022-2026 TIP. And I need to do some adjustments on my end. Outside of that, everything in our TIP should be carried over by the end of the week. Any questions on that? Number 6, as I mentioned, funds for FY23. There are funds. So after quarterly meetings, I had to do the agenda last week at this time, and quarterly meetings hadn't finalized. So after quarterly meetings, we do have some funds. So if you have a project that is needing some funds for construction, let me know for 2023. I'll see what I can do on that. But like I said, like I have down here in 6AI, please be prepared for paying more than the 20% match. I don't think it's going to be as bad, but you might be paying 22% or 24% as opposed to your 20%. We'll check that out though. And if you have CE programs, you can use those funds. That's a common strategy, is to use as much as your CE funds as part of construction, and then if you have a CE contract already approved by NDOT and programmed and a PO, then we can always come back and repay you at the end of the year. So keep that in mind. And we'll just throw like, say, 10,000 or something like that, or $15,000 on your CE, and then we just come back at the end of the year and reimburse you. Splitting projects into phases. NDOT has a policy that if you have a project with multiple phases, each phase has to have TE and right-of-way on it. So now, what we've done in the past is when we split projects, they don't like the way we've been doing it in the past. So I guess now moving forward, we can keep everything bundled on one project as we go along, and if we need to split it, we can either split it at right-of-way, and we can get away with it that way, and just put right-of-way in construction on phase 2 or phase 3, whatever. But or if you already bought your right-of-way and you need to split it up, then we could do it that way too. Essentially, what we need to do is just keep in mind that we're splitting projects at the last minute. And if you have any questions about that, talk to Marcy. She knows how to work this question, so, and she'd be more than happy to. Denny?
So we can still stay with the PE right-of-way construction per phase, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but sometimes you start a project and
Then you have to split it
you
up.
gotta split it because of, it's just growing too big and if each construction portion has independent utility, then we can do that. Kind of like Summer Street is a good example where it was split up and then was brought back together.
I guess I'm sort of missing your point somehow, because you said that any phase project has to have PE right-of-way and construction. But like our example, we're funding the PE locally and we don't need right-of-way, so. What am
So
I
you can
missing?
split it any time then, but what we have here is central office, NDOT central office is telling us how to do things. And people in LaPorte saying, sure, we'll do it your way. So, if you have any if you're doing your own PE and right away, then you can split it anytime. But if you have PE and right away on a project, they would like to see the PE and right away on the DES number that's going to construction. So,
I think I follow you now.
for instance, on your Summer Street, if you would have had if you had designed PE on there, then you could split it at any time and keep it on your initial DES number. They don't, central office doesn't like that, but they'll accept that. Timing guidelines. I want to just kind of bring this up, everybody. It seems like a lot of, at quarterly meetings, it seems like a lot of these schedules were slipping. We had programmed a lot of projects in Q1 and 2, or if they're in schedule 1 and a lot of people are scheduling projects in Q3 or 4, and they're slipping fiscal years. And a lot of it is because, as I mentioned in here, the NEPA review is really drawn out. Right away is now 12 to 18 months. And if the condemnation rate is going up, and the courts are taking a lot longer on the condemnations too. So, what initially was 6 months on a condemnation, now NDOT is seeing up to 10 months for a condemnation. So, if that is on your critical path, keep in mind, and right away generally is a critical path item, followed right behind NEPA. Those two in there that can really sync a schedule. And the way our TIP is programmed, generally we can't move projects from one year to the next. Generally you're going to be moving it out from whatever year it is outside of the TIP, and then have to reapply as per our policies at the next NOFA. Now, we could always slide it forward because you've already got it in there and it's already in the TIP and it's an outside year, but we could slide it forward. And that was the case with Hobart. But I just want everybody to keep in mind, we got the NOFA coming up. Keep in mind your schedules and try to engineer your schedules or draw up your schedules to get into Q1 or Q2 letting, just so that we can, if something happens, and you have an additional condemnation or what have you, you run into something that's gonna be difficult, or what have you, schedules just slip for whatever reason, we have some room. If it's in a March letting and it slips, you're pretty much SOL. Like I said, you've got design review, the different stages. Those are taking longer if you've got a stage 3. And then you've got your, if you're going with your truncated domes on your ADA ramps, and you need an exception for that, you're going before the Technical Advisory Committee, I believe. So keep that in mind. Everything that goes into producing a project, drawing up a project, PE and right away and everything. It's just taking longer. Permits are now looking at 12 months because most of our permits are going through Chicago office, and Chicago office doesn't really care about Northwest Indiana. They don't care about anything else. The other parts of the state, I think they have someone that works inside NDOT that works on the permits, whether it's Army Corps of Engineers or something like that. I think they have an office inside NDOT or close to it, but they work closely on like all NDOT projects. We don't have that luxury here. Generally, those are not, that's not a critical path item. You can apply for those anytime if your plans are far enough along. Just make sure that you're applying for those 12 months out. Moving on, the NOPA. Our plans are to be released in mid-September. That's still the plan. I don't have a date yet. I want to say it's going to be, it'll be released on a Wednesday. And then we'll start meeting with all the, anybody that wants to meet with NERC staff. This NOPA is going to be similar to the last time. So if you want to pull up an old NOPA, just look up the new schedule and plug in the dates. Look up the calendar for this year, plug in the dates. That's what I'm going to do. So I think it's the 2nd or 3rd Wednesday of September. That's what I'm going to go with. And then accordingly, it'll be due in October sometime. Like I said, everything's going to be, there's not too much as far as changes. There will be some changes, but most of those just fill in the loopholes or potholes. There is one, I guess the biggest change is, and I think I've told a lot of people this already, but I've had a couple of us had conversations with Mike Holowati at NDOT, and new sidewalks on busy roads. So I think I've kind of set that as a major collector and above. It's going to be HSIP eligible. So if you want to put in a sidewalk, like I said, on a major collector and above, plan on that being HSIP eligible. Denny?
Will they be considering split phasing projects? For instance, if you have a road reconstruction project that has sidewalks on it, would you be applied for STP money for the road, but HSIP money for the sidewalks?
It would depend, probably not, because the original scope of the project is probably the road. So, and doing the sidewalk is just ancillary. So I would say probably no in that case, unless you had a reason to split them into 2 different years. So, and that I think is going to be systemic. So it's not on the systemic list of HSIP eligible projects, but I think that's coming. So I think I will just ask for a letter. If you're going to do a NOFA project for new sidewalks, I would just ask for a letter that we can send down to Mike Holowati and requesting that it be HSIP. So. Any questions? Okay. The new competitive grant programs, Safe Streets for All, the railroad crossing elimination grant program, and the Reconnecting Communities pilot program. This was shared at the last commission meeting. I thought it was very timely, so I included in the T-Rock. These are competitive grants to be submitted to Federal Highway. I believe, like Ray's grant, I do want to say there's one caveat going that route. I am not sure if NDOT is going to be doing the reviews. So NDOT is, I think, discussing that right now. I think they are just so overwhelmed with their work and doing their stuff. They kind of view these grant programs as outside of their scope of services. I think I disagree with that, but because part of their job as a state DOT is to provide these services to communities. But that's above my pay grade. And that's just a commentary on my part.
And Charles, when we look at these, last time you came out, you have to have the grant planning part done already. Like you can't apply for construction dollars without having the plan done.
And okay, you're correct.
Okay.
Not always.
Okay.
Most of these, yes.
You have to apply for the planning grant.
But I've had some conversations in the past couple weeks about going through that route, and this is something that I believe is going to rear its head and is going to be a discussion between NDOT and Federal Highway, is that unless you have a DES number, an actual NDOT DES number, NDOT will not review your NEPA document, which means you can't buy right-of-way either. So that's kind of a chicken and egg thing. NDOT, until there's federal funds on the project, NDOT does not see it as a real project. So they're not going to review it. NDOT has told me that you can ask Federal Highway to review it. It has to be in the TIP. But if you just send me an email giving me all the information, fill out that DES number request form, I can put it in the TIP and give it a NERC project ID number, and that would help you with Federal Highway. but I'm not sure if Federal Highway realizes that NDOT is directing people to submit their NEPA documents for review and approval to them. Like I mentioned, I think this is going to come up and be a discussion between NDOT and Federal Highway on what that procedure is going to be for these competitive grants. Danny?
Just to be sure, NERC is not putting in the SS4A for the region, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Beth?
The reconnected communities, this is nationally competitive, there's nothing that.
Correct. All three of these are nationally competitive. So it's just like the raise grant that Munster got, that we got also. And I think, as I mentioned before, I think this is going to be a new norm with the Bill Act and the IIJA with all the different categories that infrastructure funds can be used on. There is the new carbon reduction program, which is kind of a hybrid of CMAQ and TA. But outside that, I think most of those infrastructure project ideas are going to be competitive grants. Marquette Greenway Trail update. The Marquette Greenway, I got an RFQ. It has been written, and I'm going to send it today to Federal Highway. I know a lot of you have been waiting on that. We are putting out an RFQ for project management and project manager, engineer, and design review. If you aren't on the list, I have a list of 22 different firms that are pre-qualified and NDOT pre-qualified. I'm going to send it to these 22 firms. And if you know somebody that may not be on that, you can give me a call. I'll let you know if they're on that. They're generally all of the bigger firms in Indiana, as well as all the local firms we have here that are represented that do a lot of work in the region. I'm hoping we can get that out in the next couple of weeks out on the public. And I will send an email to everyone here, especially all the consultants that are here today, as well as the ones that aren't, that like I said, do work in the region. So it has been going slow, excruciatingly slow, but I'm only one person. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't help your schedules, but working with transit and Marquette Greenway, the NOFA, and then my regular job. And then it's the same with other people. I've had my part done for the past 2 weeks, I think, but it's been sitting with our finance, and they've been in the midst of a couple different audits. But we're supposed to get it off to Federal Highway today for their review. Any questions? Any other new business?
One announcement for the group, Charles. Sheriff will start the PE selection project for an engineer for phases 3 and 4 of Kennedy Avenue. That was posted on the state website today. 30 days we put in for RFPs to be submitted to town. We want to use federal money for PE. We have it in the program, so we're gonna move that direction.
What phase was this?
Phases 3 and 4.
Good, good. Wish you were around to see all that.
I'll be in town. I don't know if I'll be making any decisions on it, but I'm warming Andy up to the process. He's taken the lead on all the submittals, so all the questions will be submitted to him, and we'll teach him a little bit going through this. So.
Good. Anything else? I do, actually, I remembered it. NERC is in the midst of doing its MTP update. Its Metropolitan Plan, Transportation Plan, its long-range plan. The grid on the wall back there behind Bob is part of what we did 4 years ago. We're now doing the 2050 plus because there's Disney Plus, everything is a plus now, so we decided we'd follow along with that and call it the 2050 plus. There is a survey online. I encourage everybody to take it. There is a picture outside, a poster outside the room here. You just take a snapshot with your phone, take a survey. It's about a 10-minute survey, I believe. There's also a map that you can go on and you can drop a pin and say, this needs to be fixed here, this needs to be fixed there. Our plan is to share that with all of you for your municipal or within your boundaries. And hopefully that'll help prioritize any projects that you may want to be thinking about submitting for the NOVA. And you can see what everybody else has put on there. So you can pull that up and see that someone had submitted that we need a trail here, or when is this trail going to be finished? And you can see how many likes are on there as well for that comment. So you can actually, like I said, you can go on there now and you can look at it. And then throw in any comments that you want. So, if that's nothing else, then I'll call for adjournment.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.